Welcome to Cash Talk, the podcast where we delve into the depths of finance, business, and life itself. I'm your host, John Cachia, a multi-award-winning wealth advisor with a passion for empowering ambitious Australians to confidently achieve financial freedom. Hey everyone, before we get started, this is a quick reminder that everything in this podcast is of a general nature and nothing has been tailored to your personal circumstances. So please seek personal financial advice before acting on this information. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Cash Talk, and today I'm joined by a new co-host, Nick. Nick, how are you, mate?
Very well, John. Yourself?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Not bad at all. Pretty excited to get in the new setup here at Thriving Wealth. We've kind of decked it out, new TV screens, a few plants, some soundproofing, some new mics, new setup. So yeah, pretty excited to kind of roll out the new version of Cash Talk, which is pretty amazing. Nick works with me at Thriving Wealth. He's an up-and-coming financial advisor, and we're going to explore a topic that a lot of people want us to talk about, which is around what does it take to become financially free? And, you know, as wealth advisors, one of our biggest things is helping people to become financially free. So we really want to work through this topic today. So, Nick, I know, you know, this was a topic that was close to you, or something that you brought up. And
Yeah, definitely. It was, I mean, when we raised this, it's something I guess a lot of clients would be aware of with yourself, John, that you have reached a level of financial freedom. So, definitely freer than me, I would say, full disclosure. But I just thought that would be a really interesting topic to delve into and find out a little bit more about your journey, because that can always be inspirational, finding out about other people's journeys.
Yeah, and it's something that I've become more used to speaking about because I do feel that it is my role to help people, to inspire them to kind of go to that next stage in their life, and they want to look upon people who kind of mean well and have good values to teach them how to live financially free. And I, by no stretch of the imagination do I think that I'm the perfect person, but you know, in regards to becoming financially free at quite a young age is very humbling, and I kind of reflect on the good things and maybe the mistakes that I've made, and hopefully can teach a few people to, you know, do some of the better things I did rather than say make some of those mistakes.
100%. So I definitely want to delve into your story, but I imagine no one really knows about me.
Well, Nick, it's for you, John, to be as obviously as open as you can be. You know, your story in regards to where you are now, and what's really what I'd love for people to understand is why you chose the journey to become a wealth advisor, and what are you learning about becoming financially free with myself, especially being one of your mentors.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so I studied, went to university and studied engineering and science originally, which you're probably aware of. And I worked as an engineer for a couple of years as well. But it wasn't until after university that I started reading a little bit more about personal finance. And I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, obviously classic personal finance book. And that kind of sparked the idea of financial freedom and having your money being able to work for you in my mind, and got me looking further and further into personal finance, investing, all sorts of different ways of managing money, I guess. So that was the beginning of the journey. And then the coal price tanked. I was working in the coal industry. The coal price tanked, and I got made redundant eventually and came back to Melbourne. And a friend of mine propositioned me with starting a business. And it was an importing business. That was the idea. Obviously had no idea what I was doing. No sort of financial literacy or business experience. So we didn't do very well, but one thing led to another, and eventually when I got back into working in sales, I moved into a position at TAL, an insurance role. And the idea there was, by that stage, I had really developed like an intense interest in personal finance, and I thought this would be a good way to get my foot in the door. And really enjoyed learning about insurance, and this is a part of the next step in my professional journey, coming here to Thriving Wealth, because I really feel like you given your amount of experience, how long you've been in financial planning, there was heaps to be learnt there. And also, I just think that you're a very genuine person and have a very genuine team, and all the guys at Thriving Wealth are amazing in that regard. That's proven to be true. But that's where, getting back to the topic, that's where the concept of financial freedom for me came from. It's probably worth defining what that is. In my mind, it was kind of a situation where I had a passive income that covered my expenses. It didn't really go any deeper than that. Do you maybe want to share what your thoughts are on what financial freedom is?
Well, it's very interesting that you share your journey because, you moved from an engineering into insurance, which most people will say, is a kind of not an interesting job, but it exposed you to the risks that are involved with people's wealth position. And then now you find yourself in a scenario where you're wanting to learn how to teach others how to become financially free. So, which is your last point about the definition of financial freedom, is actually an interesting one because it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And so when you look at financial freedom from an actual, like a numbers perspective, most people will kind of be thereabouts. About the house you live in is you're debt free on that. Okay. So you've got a sense of security, pure security, where someone can't kick you out of your home, and that you have investment income through your investment sources that exceed the lifestyle requirements. So your living expenses, your holidays, your car upgrades and stuff like that.
Okay.
And so that's, in a sense, the financial version of what financial freedom means. However, even when you're there, financially speaking, I say that financial freedom is more than just the numbers. It's also about how you feel at that point in time. Because you can have your house paid off, have passive income that exceeds your lifestyle requirements, but do you actually feel free? And you then find yourself in a scenario of, are you obsessed with just chasing the money and therefore you're not financially free? You're still shackled by the greed that sits in your behaviors that you've taught yourself, to have a situation where you have this kind of invisible, a ladder that leads to essentially the heavens that you'll never actually get to the top of. And so as much as it's about making your finances get to where you need to get to, it's also about having the right behaviors and the right mindset and the right thought process around preparing yourself to be in that scenario.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's very hard for me to articulate that to someone straight up. It obviously takes a much deeper conversation to people, but I'm very much about helping people psychologically be prepared for getting to financial freedom, as much as I'm about actually getting their numbers to do the work. Because if you speak to people that are very affluent, they've got $300,000-400,000 of passive income, they've got a house that is paid off, yet they are still a slave to the money. So are they really financially free?
So you're sort of, if I'm understanding you correct, you're sort of describing a profile of someone who gets wealthy but can't stop at a certain point. There's never enough kind of thing. That's interesting.
So you need to find out how you can find a fulfilled life, not just financial freedom. And they aren't two separate things. This is what I've started to realize. They're actually one of the same. And so you need to find yourself and what fulfills you in life, and then use your money to enable that to happen.
When did I would say, given your age and what you've been able to achieve financially, it puts you in a very small percentage of the population without even talking about specifics. But when did you learn that concept about it's not just about the numbers? And how did you come about that knowledge? When there's definitely people that possibly never do, or it takes a very long time.
Yeah, it's one thing that I found that a lot of my elderly clients that I worked with as they got on passed on their wisdom to me. And so, I was only with a few clients that are more mature in age than myself, and I was having a chat with them over the weekend. And, I was saying, as much as I taught you about wealth creation and making sure your finances are as stable as anything and that you can enjoy your retirement years, they were teaching me about life. And so I very much respected people that were much more mature than me. And some of the best life lessons were taught by people that were much older than me. And from a very young age, I always remember my father saying to me, John, don't trip over the same log that other people have tripped over. If you can learn to avoid those logs, yeah, you're going to be much wiser moving on. So I thank a lot of people that have been really, really instrumental in shaping me, but it is also because I've allowed these people with life experience to pass their knowledge on to me. But so I've always been open to learning, and I continue to be open to learning about people that have life experience. You can't buy life. Yeah, we can try and prolong it with health, and I get that. But reality, let's talk straight. In most cases, to buy 80 years of someone's life, if that person can give me just 2 or 3 nuggets, I'm going to suck that in. And they always say, you know, sometimes people will say money doesn't buy happiness. Okay. Now, it helps in some ways. Okay. But what they're more referring to, if you delve deep into that discussion, is around the things that make you truly happy don't necessarily have to have money connected to them. Yeah. It's like when my sons were born, like regardless if they were born without a private hospital or at home, that moment I will never forget, and it's the happiest moments of my life. The time in which your wife comes to you and hugs you and says, I love you, like that doesn't change regardless of wealth you've got. And then what shaped me, as much as these life experiences and me becoming a father and all this stuff, it's also around some of the traumatic things that have happened in my life. And I believe that some people learn in great ways from the traumas that they have. And I had spinal surgery, and I remember being in the hospital sitting there, and I'm like, I'm in my, what would I be, early 30s, you know, I'm in comparison to like percentages like you were talking about, I'm very comfortable. Is that getting me back to walking again? No, it's not. Yeah, it helped with a little bit of the care, and I had the rehabilitation that I required, but it's not that game-changing stuff. So I need to go, well, what can I reflect on to make me better? And for me personally, it was about making sure that I had a fulfilled life, and I do every action and make every decision based on fulfillment. Okay, and I'll take that back. Most of my decision making is based on fulfillment. You can't make every decision based on fulfillment, but most of them are. And then what happened is, from these events, me being the person I am, which you've started to realize, Nick, is I'm obsessed with then learning this at a deep psychological and emotional level. And then I figured out that if you then put fulfillment in front of the money rather than the opposite way around, so if you chase money and then you wait for the money to make you fulfilled, didn't seem to work in reality. The reality is, set what the fulfillment milestones or the fulfillment goals are, and then use the money to have that. And all of a sudden you find yourself empowering people that are reflecting, going, we've had the most amazing life. And so you'll see, like a lot of our clients, they'll usually tend to become more experience based than they are about materialistic based, because they realize that the new jumper, it will temporarily make them feel good, but actually it's prolonging that pure fulfillment. It's not to mean that we have people walking around in just 20-year clothes all the time. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about that they make meaningful money decisions based on the fulfillment of life.
Okay, that's awesome. I'm jealous. I'm looking forward to having some kids of my own in the not too distant future. The missus is watching. No, okay. So, leading up to having this chat with you, I was thinking about sort of from a financial point of view, the trade-off between risk and return, and how that impacts what you end up having financially. Do you think that you have taken risks that other people aren't prepared to take in order to get where you are financially? what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I was very aware that me and my family sit on the side of we don't have the financial resources for me to wait,
Okay.
for me to be patient. My father had a very successful business in the 80s and 90s, which, not getting into the detail today, but on previous podcasts I've shared about this, it was a failure. And I hate talking about this because I respect my father so much, but a decision that he made, the intergenerational wealth that he could have done, failed. And so I was very much exposed to going from a high life to a low life financially and what that meant. So from a very young age, I realized that I would have to do something myself to get to where I need to get to. So I was very aware that to reduce risk, and this is funny in reflection of how this young kid knew this. And when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about maybe like teenager years. Yeah.
Wow.
Like you're very young. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that from the research that I was doing in successful people, the people that took risk early, the risk wasn't that high.
Okay.
So my success story is more about me taking risks as early as possible rather than anything else. So when you talk about it, it's like I started the business when I was 20. I took a risk. Could have went to work for a bank and earned big bucks and been comfortable, but I took a lot of risks that other people weren't doing. I was driving a car at my 20s that was like, all my mates had the nice, beautiful cars, and I didn't.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, there was times where I would love to have a beautiful car, but I just realized that was a trade-off that I was making in regards to my risk and putting all of my money into that basket. And if it paid off, it paid off. If it didn't pay off, it didn't pay off. So yes, business risk 100%. Investments, however, on my journey to financial freedom, which is, even if you don't know you're chasing financial freedom, you are. Look, I haven't met someone who's not. And the only people that probably aren't are the people that have already done it and achieved it and now onto abundance. Yeah. But in regards to my investments, in hindsight, I probably didn't take enough risk early on. Yeah. But that's okay. I don't regret it. I don't sit out here and say, oh, it was a mistake, because I wasn't mature enough to understand the complexities of risk. And when I think about risk and return trade-off to become financially free, the biggest risk I find is people not taking action. Yeah. Yeah, we'll get around to sorting it out. Yeah, we're getting around to getting a plan. Yeah, we're getting around. Yeah. When are you getting around to it? Do you know what I mean? And they find themselves in this kind of default position, which is just working, keeping up with society, buying a house. Half of Australia have got lucky, man. They bought a house, yeah. Debt has gone phenomenal, and they found themselves in an equity position. But behind closed doors, have they sorted out their lifestyle creep? Have they sorted out all of these other systems that they need to do to get to where they need to get to? No. They look at themselves on a balance sheet and think they're good. They're not financially free and fulfilled. So the risk of inaction is important. From an investments perspective, I think you need to take the required risk to achieve your goals. And what I find is that personally myself, I think I've taken less risk than people would have on the investment side of things. And I reckon if most people saw my portfolio, they would go, well, John, it's super simple. It is. Like, it doesn't need to be sexy. Like, it's simple, it's automated, it's a predetermined strategy, but it's solely centered on keeping my family financially free. Yeah. And so my biggest risk now, financially speaking, is my kids. Is I build up these assets, pass them on to my kids. And if I haven't taught them what I've taught them, they're going to become spoiled little brats and blow the whole thing. And so I think your journey as you go along changes in regards to the risk early on, He's not taking action. Probably that mid kind of scenario is taking risks where you're investing in things that you don't know and you're making bad decisions. And then as time goes on, the risk changes because it's now about, am I taking enough risks to get to where I need to get to? You know, do I now need to optimize my stuff? And then once you're financially free, it's the risk of you diluting your assets. And I was only speaking to a client today who has got a really good, substantial asset base because they've done really, really good up into their mid 40s. But they're so exposed to potential loss of their assets now. And so risk changes over time.
Mate, you've covered a lot there. You covered a lot of interesting concepts there. So you mentioned that you recognized early that people who had done well when you were early, as in when you were young, were willing to take on a lot of risk. So there's that concept of risk exposure varying over your lifetime and sort of intuitively knowing that when you're younger, you can open yourself up to more risk. Also, one of the things when we first met in person that we spoke about was financial literacy, enabling people to take on more risk, like that the psychological aspect of that. And yeah, I'm hearing a lot from what you're saying about the way people, their perspective on their situation. One other thing that you mentioned about yourself specifically just then was that you've been conservative with your investing, though. So even you probably should have taken more risk from an investments point of view earlier. Do you attribute where you're at now more to business, like the risks you took in business, than investing, or like how does that look?
Yeah. So if you saw like a scorecard, the business has done extremely well. Yeah. The investments have done average.
Okay.
And I'm not going to say that they've done bad. I'm not going to say that they've done great. They've done average. And what I mean by average is everyone can produce what I've produced.
Right.
The problem is people didn't execute like I did.
Okay.
So when you look at my portfolio, it's made up of stocks, properties, cash, bonds. Oh my gosh, John, it's not this sexy stuff. No, it's not. But what I tell my clients is the same thing I do for myself. However, open up the lid, there's a lot of complexities. The way things are structured to keep the money in the family, the asset protection side of things, the tax minimization. My accountant goes and sees me and goes like, can you just help me with this? Not the opposite way around. And I'm there mapping out how the money flows and the way it needs to be attributed to and distributed accordingly. So yes, my assets are very simple. The way that they're structured from a tax minimization perspective and from an asset protection perspective are quite comprehensive because I'm mitigating the risks that I can control. And so when I say that I probably didn't take enough risk with my investments, it was because I was so focused on the business. I knew I needed to get that right that I left the other ones into just autopilot, which is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. What I want the listeners and viewers to know is everything that I've done personally, you can do yourself. This is not about what is John's special mind and he's this gifted person that's that. No. Like everything we do for our clients is a version of what I've done for myself. I told you this. A lot of the things that I've done or I've learned and teach is outside of the books. We talk about financial literacy and risk tolerance. Everyone can learn about money if they want to. It's how much time you, as a priority, you want to put to that. You know, my sons, I've spoken about this, we spend time teaching them about financial literacy because we believe that is very, very important for them. So if you have it where, let's say your kid does Taekwondo, if you want them to become good at martial arts, you'll continue to take them to Taekwondo. If you want to improve their financial well-being, you continue to take them to financial literacy courses or for them to learn financial literacy in their household. So for the listeners and viewers out there, I want you all to know, one, you need to define what your financial freedom is. What does that look like? Draw it if you have to. Create a vision of what that likes to look like, and then create a plan of how you're going to get there. But what I'm hoping that you've heard from what I'm saying and what Nick we've been discussing here, the plan isn't just the numbers. It's not the 1 + 1 = 2. That's what traditional financial planning's about. But it's around more than that. It's around the psychology. It's around, will you actually be financially free when you get there? So you need to find, as much as you need to find your financial freedom numbers, you need to find what makes you fulfilled. And see, I just don't think, I'm going to be honest with you, Nick, a lot of people come to us with the motivation of wanting to be financially free and live a fulfilled life. But how many people actually take the action consistently to do that? And so you look at the percentage numbers, and it's unbelievable to think about how low the percentage is of people that are financially free and how many people become financially free. And those numbers are not because I have exposure to assets that they can't buy, or it's based on the behaviors and the psychology and the actual taking the action to put this as an important step in their life.
100%. Yeah, I was just about to say, I think I'm definitely hearing that. It's definitely we're potentially our worst enemy a lot of the time, our own worst enemy. And mastering yourself and mastering your emotions and your mind, and like you say, the psychology, I think, is what I'm hearing is the key. And less, although the numbers, correct me if I'm wrong, from what I'm hearing from you, although the numbers are important, there's potential to self-sabotage yourself. It's not, maybe not as complex. Maybe there isn't as much of a secret sauce as people think there are. It's just about consistency.
You can earn $700,000 a year and have a poor mindset and not have the right behaviors, and you will never become financially free. Because even if your numbers stack up and you're debt free and you've got a passive income that exceeds your lifestyle perspective, but yet you're still not satisfied and you want more, are you actually free?
Yep.
Do you get me what I'm saying to you? Someone at $50,000 a year can get a passive income to support $50,000 and could potentially become financially free and fulfilled before the person with 700,000 happens, because they never actually found themselves and what makes them fulfilled, and keep on buying things that they think will make them fulfilled. Yeah. If you look about the fulfillment of work, everyone wants to earn more, earn more, earn more. The greatest, like one of the most happiest moments you'll ever have when you actually work is your first paycheck. And I bet you your first paycheck, when you got it, you were like, whoa, got paid, yeah? Didn't you?
I'm too old, mate. Can't remember.
Yeah. Funnily enough, I remember my first pay, and I loved it. I can't believe that I worked and I earned money. It was so fulfilling. That paycheck was probably like 1/100th of what I'm earning right now, yet the fulfillment is totally different.
Something just popped into my mind on a related but side note. Have you ever come across some of these studies that they've done where they look at happiness and how it's correlated with income, and how it caps out at certain amounts, and it doesn't impact your satisfaction or life satisfaction and happiness beyond. I don't know what the exact numbers are.
Yeah.
But it might be like 80,000, 100,000 incomes around those sort of figures.
For me, in most cases, especially in the Western world, income is irrelevant.
Okay.
Because I've met so many people over my lifetime that are on just above the age pension, for example, and are happy as hell. You know, happy as happiness, you know, not hell, I shouldn't say that. poor connection. Happy as heaven. And they, you know, you can tell that they're really fulfilled in their life. They're at peace. They want you to do well for yourself. And yet you've got people that drive around in Maseratis. They've got these huge homes and they're just miserable. And if you look at things like divorce rates and mental health and suicides, and you look at the financial stress that comes from people just chasing money, that's where it's very, very dangerous for people to think that it's just one side of the coin, which is just chasing the financial numbers. You've got to find what makes you fulfilled. And there's certain trade-offs that you're not willing to give away for money, regardless of what they are, And so that's why I have a strong connection between fulfillment and financial freedom. And that's where, Nick, you found probably me being so unique in comparison to other people that you've spoken with in our field. And it's not to say that I'm not the only one that thinks this way, but yeah, I've looked at the studies, I've looked at the white papers, I've looked at the research, I've observed myself, and we need to use money as a vehicle to point the money into the places that make these individuals fulfilled. And for you, of the listeners and the viewers, think about yourself. Think about the happiest moments that you've had in your life, and why did they make you happy? And if you can chase fulfillment every day and then use your money to do that, well, you're going to be in a much better place. However, there's a lot of people that are at a different stage than myself, and there's a lot of people that are at a different stage than yourself, Nick. And what I want to do for all the viewers and listeners is give you some tips in regards to helping you on your journey to financial freedom. Okay? We'll go through them.
Okay.
So when you're first starting out, you're starting out with no knowledge, you're starting off as a blank canvas. So I believe that the first thing that you need to do is invest in learning. And this is where people miss the boat. They try to go towards getting an investment or getting something that's going to propel them to where they need to get to. So when you look about me, and we just talked about the success of my business, the reason is because I invested in my knowledge and understanding my game at a much better level and becoming obsessed with it, so mastering my art. And so especially if you're in your younger years or if you want to change careers, just master what you love and what your passion is. I was very blessed that I found something that I love. So invest in yourself. Sounds a bit fluffy, but trust me, to do this over and over and again and wake up every morning at 5 a.m., finish at all different hours, you got to love what you do and you got to become a master at it. Once you do that, well, guess what? You're going to start getting paid for your knowledge, and for your expertise in regards to what you do. So that's number one. Number two is when it comes to your finances, you want to automate them as much as possible. If they are hard, they become like a strict diet. Yeah, they become like this pain in the neck. Oh, I have to go to the gym at 4 a.m. in the morning. And no, you want to try and automate it, systemize it as much as possible. So if you start very simple in regards to, okay, well, what's hard? All right, understanding where my money goes. Can you automate that? Yes, you can. You can automate it. So work with your banking, work with your accounts, create savings before you spend. Okay, you've heard this all before, everyone, and automate that as much as possible. Then once you've got your foundation sorted out, this is including making sure, you're protected and all that. Let's forget that for now. We're talking wealth accumulation for now. Mm-hmm. You then need to have an exercise. Once you've automated, you're investing in yourself, you need to have an exercise where you say, when do I realistically want to become financially free? And I know that's for everyone that is tomorrow, but realistically, and then what does financial freedom look like to you? Visualize it. You need to understand it. You need to touch and feel it. So it's beyond, I need $4 million in an account. What's truly going to make you financially free and fulfilled at the same time? And that's where we spent a lot of time today, because this is where people get it wrong. Then once you know the destination, you then start to build the strategies to get there. Now, let me tell you also one thing. You might look at investments that are going to get you there as quick as possible. But remember, the more you earn, the more potential return, the more risk you take on. So this is where time can be your best friend and your worst enemy. So if you start early, you can take a lot of risk and you can make many mistakes, and time will recover them like a beautiful Band-Aid or a bandage. Yeah? The shorter time period, the more risks you want to take, It's like literally doing 250 kilometers an hour on the freeway. You're likely to have an accident. So you then need to figure out the investment strategy to get to where you need to get to. And then the most important of all is you need to try day after day, create better behaviors and a better money mindset to get to where you need to get to. And this is where most people fail. Most people think they're going to put their money into autopilot, they're going to listen to a couple of books, they're going to let the investments do their certain thing, and that they're not going to touch it. They're going to buy low, sell high. It's going to happen automatically. And the reality is, the biggest problem that people have, far beyond donating to the tax office, which is really bad, and paying fees that they shouldn't, it's making stupid decisions with their money. And as soon as you realize that you need to get yourself as far away from your own money strategy as quickly as possible, you're well on your way to getting to where you need to. Because all of a sudden you've removed emotion away, you've got a predetermined strategy, and that strategy from someone else is executing on that time after time after time.
Makes sense.
Make sense?
Definitely.
Hopefully all of you have got some really good, valuable tips today. And if you want to know more, please reach out. Follow me on Instagram at @Cachia. I'm on there. You can DM me. You can reach out. But also just follow us on the podcast as well too. We're on most podcast platforms. And thank you very much for listening. And until next time, have a great one. Cheers.